fans, comic geeks, and all nerds in between. My name is Megan, and I am here to talk about X-Men 97 Season 2, Episode 5, titled Weapon X, Lies, and DVDs. I hate to say it, I do, but I honestly was very surprised on how much I did not vibe with this episode. Was it bad? No, not at all. I can absolutely see why a lot of people are going to love it. But I've never been a huge Weapon X fan, so this already wasn't my thing, but then it was how they handled Wolverine, and I'll get into it. I don't know. This episode gave me the same feeling as the Motendo Life-Death episode from Season 1. I know there are a lot of fans who are absolutely going to eat this one up, but for me, it was more of a cool, can we get back to everyone else now kind of episode. So I'm not going to bash it because honestly, just because I didn't like it doesn't mean it was a bad episode. It just wasn't for me, and I didn't like how things were handled. But, well, let's just get into it. This episode picks up right after the previous post-credit scene with Wolverine deciding it's time to get the band back together for one last incredibly unhealthy revenge mission. If you were expecting Grant Morrison and Chris Bachalo's assault on Weapon Plus, like I kind of was, surprise. Instead, Logan reunites with the original Team X from the animated series, Lady Deathstrike, Kane, Maverick, Sabretooth, while Morph tags along as both the getaway pilot and Wolverine's emotional support mutant. The target is Dr. Cornelius, the man responsible for all those lovely adamantium experiments. Naturally, Team X wants revenge. They track him down to the old Weapon X facility buried deep in the Canadian wilderness, only to discover Cornelius isn't actually the biggest problem anymore, which is saying something. He's been transformed into one of the Brood, those delightfully horrifying xenomorph-looking aliens from the Chris Claremont X-Men run that somehow took this long to make it in the show. I would have thought they would have already grabbed it, but they didn't. From there, it basically becomes more everyone's trapped in the underground horror movie while nightmare bugs crawl through the vents kind of vibe, and honestly, it's a fun premise. The Brood swarm the facility while the Team X fights for survival, and things get even worse when Wolverine gets infected, recreating Mark Silvestri's iconic Uncanny X-Men number 234 cover, which, by the way, I own on a t-shirt somewhere. I wanted to wear it for this review, and apparently it has entered the same dimension as every missing left sock. So I'm just mildly annoyed, and if you see it, let me know. Anyway, the team eventually stumbles across Omega Red, who was a standout for this episode. I love Omega Red, and I can't believe I haven't made a character breakdown about him yet, so that might be coming sooner rather than later. And Omega Red has apparently been taking the world's longest nap in a cryo storage ever since the animated series Season 5 episode, A Deal with the Devil. My guy has been frozen for literal decades. Imagine waking up and immediately getting dragged into another Wolverine drama. It's rude. Even with all the adamantium flying around, the episode does a great job making the Brood feel genuinely dangerous. You are sitting on the edge of your seat, and they did a good job. Kane and Maverick do not make it out alive. Sure, if you're not a huge X-Men comic book fan, or you're not up to date on the X-books from the 90s, you probably weren't exactly mourning them. But their deaths immediately establish that these aliens are not here to play. The stakes are very high, and we can see as they already murked 2 members of this team. The whole episode had some really serious Predator energy, and I'm always down for mutants versus nightmare space bugs. The biggest surprise, though, was Morph. Morph was absolutely the standout in this episode for me. Their Cyclops impersonation was hilarious, and besides that, they definitely were the emotion in the heart of the episode. Morph has always been kind of an odd fit in the animated universe. They're loosely based on Changeling from the comics, but the animated version was basically invented as someone who was meant to die in the first episode and traumatized children everywhere. If you want the full history of Morph, shameless plug, I actually have a full ep video on my channel, so be sure to check that out. All right, self-promotion is over. Fans loved Morph enough that the original series brought them back, gave them a Mr. Sinister storyline, and then kind of forgot what to do with them. Since Morph didn't have decades of comics stories to adapt, they basically just hung around making jokes and occasionally turning into other people. This episode finally gives Morph something a little meatier. more depthful. Not a perfectly wrapped up character arc, but something complicated. What really stands out is their relationship with Wolverine. On the surface, Morph is just trying to stop Logan from self-destructing for what feels like the 900th time, but maybe it's more than friendship. Sabretooth certainly thinks so. A large part of the fandom certainly thinks so. But let's be honest, Sabretooth would weaponize literally anything if he thought it would get under Logan's skin. What I really liked about this episode that it never gives us a clear answer. Honestly, it doesn't even seem like Morph knows. JP Karliak absolutely kills it here. That is the voice actor for Morph. 1 minute Morph is roasting everyone with perfect comedic timing, and the next they are quietly questioning who they are, especially during that whole Tomo conversation with Lady Deathstrike. It's easily one of the strongest parts of the episode because it doesn't rush to define everything. Sometimes people don't have all the answers immediately. Truthfully, I could see Morph leaving the team or stepping away for a little bit by the end of the season to figure themselves out. I really hope that's not where we're headed because I'm going to miss them. But I also absolutely can see that being set up. But let's be honest, Morph deserves better. Plain and simple, Morph deserves better. Also, I want to point out that Morph got stabbed in the chest by Wolverine, and then nothing happened. They just got better that fast. I know Morph has a healing factor, but we didn't even see him struggle or heal. Maybe I'm just nitpicking. Unfortunately, Wolverine didn't get the same level of care as Morph did. By the end of the episode, his adamantium skeleton is already back, which feels really fast. The Brood infection briefly reframes Wolverine's classic man or beast struggle. But before the show can really dig into it, we're basically right back where we started. In the comics, losing his adamantium completely changed Wolverine. He had bone claws, his healing factor got weird, and he slowly became more feral. And that status quo lasted for years. I'm not saying X-Men 97 needed to spend 3 seasons adapting every single one of those stories, but maybe, I don't know, give him more than a couple episodes. Magneto ripping out the adamantium out of Wolverine is still one of the most shocking moments this show has ever adapted. Even seeing it again on the previously on recap, it gave me butterflies in my stomach. The problem is that almost nothing afterward treats it like it was a massive life-changing event. Wolverine still tears through Apocalypse's forces like business as usual, and outside of Sabretooth roasting him over the bone claws, the change barely affects him. One of the biggest moments in X-Men history gets resolved in basically a single episode, and I just think we moved on way too quickly. That's always been a balancing act with superhero stories. They love changing everything, right before changing it all back. The trick is making those temporary changes actually matter while they last. X-Men 97 still has plenty of stories left to tell, and thankfully not all of them need to revolve around Wolverine trying to rediscover his humanity for the 100th time. But if you're going to shake up the status quo with one of the most iconic Wolverine moments ever, let us sit with it for a while before hitting the reset button. In short, we should have got a lot more Bone Claw Wolverine before the Adamantium update got reinstalled. Hopefully, next week's episode eases off the gas just enough to let the mutant soap opera breathe before throwing everyone into the next apocalypse. I have high hopes because besides this episode, I've loved everything that's happened this season. They cooked really hard. They still are. This episode just wasn't for me, and I think this should teach them if you're going to do something huge and monumental to a character, like removing the adamantium from their bones through their skin for all of us to see, maybe let that marinate for a little bit. Because I would have liked to see Wolverine with his bone claws a lot more. I would have liked to see how it affected him. I would have liked to see how he changed and what led up to him coming back to the adamantium. I don't know. I think they could have really cooked here, but it just fell a little flat for me. Like I said, Omega Red and Morph were the brightest lights of this episode, and I'm really happy we got to see both of them. I am interested to see where Morph ends up after this episode. I hope he doesn't go away, but something you should know about me is that all of my theories do not come true, so we're probably in pretty safe shape here. So I'm so bummed I didn't really dig it, but that's fine. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know. If you liked it, I want to know why you liked it, because I like knowing that people like things, and I like focusing on the positives. So tell me in the comments. With that being said, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything else I put out, because I put out a whole bunch of stuff. I just put out an episode yesterday, accidentally put it out, but that doesn't matter. I put out an episode yesterday about Magneto's clone. His name is Joseph, and I think you should get to know him. So, with that being said, have a marvelous day.